Great.
Yeah. So you were talking about wanting like a structure or a practice. Um,
Yeah,
and
and um, I I'm familiar with spaciousness and how my awareness functions within it, and so I any direction you would like to give, invoking kind of helping hands or helping guardian spirits. I have not been doing that. But it hasn't felt necessary in terms of the space that I'm visiting right now, which is very open and light and
okay,
welcoming.
okay, good. So just talk some about this book
Okay,
and the author and some of what I've been learning about bone. I'm going to put an image of the book up to the
awesome.
camera.
Okay.
Um, let me,
Yes, uh-huh. That's the one I'm getting.
yeah, and it's Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, and it's this book is about Dzogchen primarily, and it really is a how-to manual um, for how to do the practice, how to start, how to get it off the ground, um, and how to work towards integrating it into one's daily life. And it's not for beginners, it's not for the first months of learning how to meditate and focus on something, but it gets pretty close. Um, he talks about um, doing a visual focusing, and he gives instructions on writing the Tibetan letter A on like an index card or a piece of paper, and putting it on a little stick and holding it in front of you a foot and a half, and just keeping your eye focused on that Tibetan A. And he gives instructions for certain colors to uh, encircle the Tibetan A in. But he said you can just use an English language A also. I guess the important part is the mental focus. And usually when I teach meditation, I, I do the initial focusing on the breath. Um,
Yes.
and this is just an alternative. And maybe it's a better alternative using visual modality instead of tactile, the breath being tactile. Um, but he talks about that. And then he goes on and he talks about nurturing the clarity, the focus, the clear mind, the clear awareness, focus and clarity as the first step in daily practice. And
Hmm.
that's something that we talked about in the meditation workshop. Um, samadhi, samadhi, and the bone word is different, but the idea is the same. It's working on building the ability to quiet the mind, just to quiet the mind. So that's what focusing on the breath or something visual is intended to do, to quiet the mind so that you get beyond the busyness of the mind, the spinning thoughts and emotions, which is really hard, especially for us Westerners, because it's all we know for the most part, except when we immerse ourselves in art or music or maybe exercise, then we quiet the mind sometimes. Or like you creating art, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the first step in a bone. And I would also say a Nyingmapa Tibetan Buddhist approach. what I've been teaching and doing. And then the second step is then learning to concentrate the mind. And he goes into detail about that. Quieting the thoughts, quieting the emotions. And then he goes into the third, and I wouldn't say final, but the third major phase of meditation training, which is contemplation. And that's where the magic begins to happen. You know, the quieting the mind, concentrating is all good, but it's just steps to get to contemplation. And again, this is consistent. This Bon approach is consistent with Nyingma, Nyingma Tibet Buddhism, and probably many other traditions, where contemplation is basically where you allow the deeper reality of consciousness to come to the fore of awareness and pass through awareness without holding on to it, without conceptualizing it, without naming it, without categorizing it. You allow being oneness and clarity with what is in the essence of consciousness. And then he goes on, the author, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, to talk about, okay, you have the magic of contemplation and meditation. And then he goes on, and I'm still reading about this in the book. I'm about 40% through this book. And he gives really quite brilliant, pragmatic, detailed instruction on how to then begin to integrate that deeper contemplative awareness into day-to-day life, into life with the moving mind, with the five senses activated, the mind activated, going through day-to-day life, driving, being in stores, walking around, talking to people. And I won't try to replicate his instructions on all that. It's fairly elaborate and, again, highly pragmatic and I wouldn't say common sense, but sensible. Really, really sensible. And part of the problem when you read a real master from someplace like Tibet is they take for granted aspects of training and immersion in practice that we don't have in the West. So, you know, this author achieved all of this when he was a child. And so he kind of goes quickly through these 3 or 4 steps where for us it could take several lifetimes. And it kind of can make one feel like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm so far beyond what so inept and unable compared to these people who, you know, come from monasterial background. Like, but we just have to accept that, you know, somebody like this author was trained and inculcated from a baby until the time he was 18. So he had, you know, for us, what would be many lifetimes of training by the time he was 18. So his progress is very fast. But he does say, if you engage in the practice as he's outlining, then one can reach full realization in one lifetime, even if one starts late. So that's very hopeful. And I could say, like, without trying to recreate everything he's written, I do recommend this book highly. But it talks about going into a state of meditation to go into emptiness. And so you and I, we can practice that right now. using the mantra if you like, silently. The state of Dzogchen, empty mind, clarity, presence, deep penetrating awareness. Which is wonderful to touch upon in meditation. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to quiet the mind. Then I'll start speaking again about some of the instruction on integration, and we can try to exemplify it. So the first step of integrating absorption consciousness according to these teachings is to branch out from just pure mental consciousness meditation to slight movements of the body in the same body of presence of the meditation. And you, as a martial artist, are familiar with this principle of body movement flowing from the Tibet and the Tai Chi tradition, Shen. Basically, just the same concept, movement flowing from the emptiness in the world. So you can practice just moving your hands, moving the fingers slowly, slightly, maintaining the same quality of empty Dzogchen awareness. And then building upon that in your practice, not right now, building upon that in more involved, complex body movements. Step by step. And then building upon the same concept with speech, allowing your voice to be an extension of the Dzogchen emptiness and energy. So that you're expressing the depth, the wisdom in your speech. And then extending beyond that into your behavior, your actions in the world. So that ultimately every moment of waking life is practice, is Dzogchen practice. And there's many levels to this and layers to this. Too much to get into right now. But he elaborates on one major further step, which is integrating Dzogchen awareness into one's sleep and dreams. And this is called dream yoga. And this same author has written a book and published a book on this because it's considered very important. So this practice, these practices starting at concentration on the breath or on a visual stimuli like the letter A or the Tibetan letter A or something else is the starting point. 15, 20 minutes a day, extending beyond that. Eventually half an hour, with the correct posture, straight back. To do the practice in the morning is best. To do the practice when the body and mind are calm is best, not after physical exertion, not after caffeine, not after alcohol or any other chemical, not on a full stomach. And this is just the basic, but if you took what I just said is a synopsis of what easily could be an entire lifetime of practice or more. And it takes tremendous commitment to do it every day. And the author has a quote from a historic master. It says, "The best meditation is no meditation." And so that's the goal. The goal is to have full integration of Dzogchen consciousness, emptiness of mind manifesting, inspired action, skillful means, wisdom in every moment of the day and night without having to meditate, but being that conduit, that expression at all times. So one doesn't even need to meditate. That is the goal. That is what they call full realization, full integration. And the author talks about it very matter of factly, not in mystical terms, but this is the goal. This is how to get there. So again, this is all in this book, and I've been doing some practice related to this for decades, and I could see that having just read 40% of this book, it's right on target. Very practical, very direct, very clear, very unforgiving. We do what is outlined according to, in the Bon tradition, 18,000 years of teaching transmission, at times working directly with a master, not always working alone. And this is how to make progress in the entire path. It requires putting down the phone, getting off the computer, getting off the electronics for the hours a day to do the practice. Cultivating the ability to focus, to concentrate, to contemplate, which all of our devices train us to do and be the opposite. They untrain us, they unprepare us, they damage our ability to focus, concentrate, and contemplate. Then contribute to making us vulnerable to confusion, negativity, depression, anxiety, mental illness, relationship troubles, violence, all of that. And so you can say this is what the world needs. Contemplative consciousness manifesting in radiance in real life, day to day, in more and more people. Expanding and growing consciousness. And I'll be quiet for just a couple of minutes and then I'll start talking again. And at this point, if you're in a meditation, you can begin to bring your awareness back to your five senses. Tap your fingers, tap your toes, take the deep breath and release. And begin to open your eyes when you're ready.